Hi, my name is Glenn Garnes, and I'm the founder of the Village Connector Community Marketing System. I've also created a special program called Mr. Paycheck Meets the Entrepreneur. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that program later, but for now, let me just explain that I help business professionals to create and start new businesses. And then I help them to market those businesses or an existing business on and off the internet. In my former life, I was an attorney representing small business owners and their legal needs. And I became very intrigued over the years by some of the needs and challenges that small business owners faced, especially when it came to marketing themselves. So that's basically what I do today is I help small business owners to market themselves, especially in their local communities and things. Now, what I want to do today is I want to share with you a lesson that I learned which arose out of my experience with my first job out of law school. And I call this lesson, What Are You Worth? It's designed to help you to understand why you will never be paid what you think you're worth when you work for somebody else. So let me share with you my story on that and then hopefully share some tidbits of wisdom that might benefit you. When I was fresh out of law school, I was hired by the law firm. I was ecstatic to have the job, and I had a very good first year with them. In fact, these are the things that they told me about the performance that I had in my first year. They told me that I was the youngest associate to ever get a six-figure verdict in that firm. They also told me that I was the youngest associate to ever be profitable in their first, or I was the only associate to ever be profitable in my first year, meaning that I've generated enough revenue for the firm to cover my salary, the salary of my secretary, and the salaries of the other staff people, the paralegal and law clerks that worked with me on my cases. They also told me that I was the only associate who in my first year was self-sufficient, meaning that I had gotten to the point where I didn't need for the partners to give me cases. I was bringing in enough business from my own resources, my own connections, that I was self-sustaining and that didn't need to have partners giving me work to keep me busy. So I was very excited. I was feeling good about who I was and what I was doing. So around Christmas time, when it was time for us to receive bonuses, I was pretty confident that I was going to get an incredible bonus based on the things that they had been telling me all year long. So I go strutting down to the senior partner's office and walk into the office for my review, and I sit across the desk, and he's sitting in his big leather chair, and there were two other partners in the room, each on either side of him, flanking him on either side. And the partner looked at me and he said, "Glenn, you had a fabulous year this year. We really appreciate how hard you worked and everything. Now I want you to know that this check is not going to be as much as we'd like to give you, but it'll be about enough to buy you a new suit and a nice pair of shoes." And back then, my suit was about $1,500 and my shoes were about $500. So I was thinking to myself, wow, that's not quite what I expected, but you know, if it was enough to get me a new pair of shoes and a nice suit, I could probably live with that. So they gave me my review. They reiterated the things they'd been telling me all year. They gave me some encouragement for the coming year, told me some things they'd like to see accomplished in the coming year. And I walked out of that office with that check and walked back down to my office, where I opened the envelope and almost fell out of my chair. That check was only $500. I didn't have the courage or the courage to walk back down and tell the senior partner that this would be enough for me to get a couple shoe shines, but not necessarily to buy a new suit and a pair of shoes. Now, at that moment, I had a choice. I either could be bitter about the fact that I wasn't being paid what I was worth, or I could make the decision to do something different. And a lot of people would have become bitter and they would have gotten themselves in trouble with the firm and things of that nature by just being negative about the situation. But I actually learned one of the most important lessons that I have ever learned in my life, and it actually was the most positive thing that ever happened to me to that point in my life. And this is what I learned from that experience. That if I wanted to be paid what I was worth, I needed to be sitting in the chair that the senior partner was sitting in, making that decision. You see, most people get paid what their position is worth, not what they're worth. Because your worth is always going to be limited by what someone else feels they can pay to go and replace you. So if you truly want to get paid what you're worth, you have to make the decision to go out and be sitting in the captain's chair, in the partner's chair, in the CEO's chair. And so that's why I make it a point to teach people about the opportunities to operate their own businesses. Now, in a previous video that I did called The Opportunity in Unemployment, if you haven't seen The Opportunity in Unemployment, by the way, I recommend that you go back and look at that one first. But I talked in that video about the concept of overcoming fear by engaging in activity and learning some new skills so that you can then reach success. So I want to tell you my story as it relates to this, because I did this is not something I learned to do and I'm just telling you to do it. I actually did these things. So naturally, when I went out and started my own firm, because that's what I did a year later, I took the year to kind of digest what had happened to me and realized that in order for me to be paid what I was worth, I was going to have my own firm. And I made the preparations to go do that. And when I say preparations, I had to first overcome the fear of the idea of being out on my own. I'd never operated a business before. I'd only been practicing law for a year. So it was a big step out for me to make the decision to even think about going out and starting my own law firm. So what I did during the year that I was making preparations was I engaged in the process I described in the unemployment video, which is I started off by learning. I paid very close attention to what was being done to operate law firms. I read some books, I talked to some people, I learned what I needed to do. I learned what it took to go out and start a law firm. I then engaged in activity by starting the process of getting involved with setting the stage for me to make my move. And most importantly at that time, I shortened my learning curve by engaging in modeling. In other words, I went out and looked at what other lawyers that were doing what I was doing, what I wanted to do, were doing, and I modeled myself after them. I found out where they were buying their letterhead, what kind of courses they were taking, how they were engaging in the process of getting clients, how they were getting the resources together to be able to operate their law firms. I was able to just watch what other people did and go out and do the same thing. That one thing shaved years off of my learning curve. And then the next thing that I did, once I did make the leap to start my own law firm, was I went out and I taught. And I taught on two levels. I actually started teaching workshops and seminars in the community, which was another way for me to bring clients in. I taught about the legal expertise I had, topics that I was trying to bring clients in on. I went out and taught workshops and seminars on that. And then I eventually got to the point where I started teaching other lawyers how to go out and start their own law firms. I had a website called Lawyer Lounge where I was literally teaching lawyers how to streamline their law practices using technology, which was a big subject for me. So I followed this four-step process that I laid out in the unemployment video, just the way that I shared with you here, and just the way that you could be doing it. So I guess my message to you is this. If you feel that you're not getting paid what you're worth, don't let that be a negative thing for you. Let that be a learning experience, because you're never going to be paid what you're worth when you're letting somebody else decide what that value is. If you want to be paid what you're worth, you have to get out and be in your own business. So we're going to have a series of we got some other videos coming your way. They're going to help you to understand some other concepts related to this one. Be sure to follow the whole series, because I'm telling you right now that if you understand these few basic simple principles, you will be able to remove these fears that are holding you back from exploring the possibility of having your own business. You're not far away from being able to do that. You just need to have a little bit more knowledge, know what kind of activity to engage in, be able to identify someone that's doing what you're doing or what you want to do and follow what they're doing, and then get in the habit of teaching other people something that makes you better at what you're doing as well. Now, I told you at the beginning of the video I wanted to share with you a little bit about this program I've created called Mr. Paycheck Meets the Entrepreneur. This is basically a comprehensive coaching program, a multimedia system on the internet that takes you step by step through everything you need to know to start a business and to operate the business and to eventually transition out by selling the business. In other words, it's everything that I've ever learned in the 50 years I've been on this planet, everything I've ever learned about being in business, I'm going to be sharing with you through that course. Now, the program at this point in time is actually in pre-launch, meaning that we haven't actually opened it up. But I want to encourage you to go over to MrPaycheck.com to find out more about it and see if it might be something that you find valuable. There's going to be a special promotion for early adopters to get in at a very, very attractive price point. So I want to encourage you to go over there to get more information so you can find out how you can participate and put this resource to work for you. So it's Mr. spelled out, M-I-S-T-E-R, Paycheck, P-A-Y-C-H-E-C-K.com, MrPaycheck.com. Go over there and check out the website. We actually have a newsletter over there too. You can get on the mailing list and get some free tips on marketing and starting a new business. but I specifically want you to get an opportunity to see the program to see if there may be a value there for you. Once again, my name is Glenn Garnes, and I want to thank you for coming out and checking out this video.